What you're about to hear is the story of Jessica Radcliffe, a 29-year-old marine mammal trainer whose final performance would end in unimaginable horror. But this isn't just another tragic accident. What really happened that day has been covered up for months, and the security footage I'm about to describe will shock you to your core. For 8 years, Jessica believed she had formed an unbreakable bond with Titan, a massive 12,000-pound orca. But what she didn't know, what the park never told her, was that Titan had already killed before. Jessica Radcliffe's obsession with orcas started early, but it wasn't normal childhood curiosity. While other kids collected toys, Jessica was memorizing whale autopsy reports. At 12, she could identify different orca dialects just by listening. Her bedroom looked like a marine biology crime scene. Photos, charts, behavioral studies covering every inch of wall space. But here's what's chilling. Even as a child, Jessica was drawn specifically to captive orcas, not wild ones. She studied every attack, every incident, every warning sign. She knew the risks better than anyone, yet she still chose this path. By 16, she was already working at the New England Aquarium. The senior trainers noticed something unsettling about her. She wasn't just fearless around dangerous animals, she seemed to crave their attention. One former colleague told me off the record, Jessica didn't just want to work with orcas, she needed them to love her. That need would eventually kill her. She graduated college in record time and immediately applied to every marine park in the country. But here's what's never been reported. SeaBreeze Marine World wasn't her first choice. She'd been rejected by 3 other facilities for being too emotionally invested in the animals. SeaBreeze hired her anyway, and that decision would haunt them forever. What I'm about to tell you about SeaBreeze Marine World has never been made public until now. Internal documents leaked to us reveal a facility that was operating like a ticking time bomb, and management knew it. SeaBreeze wasn't just another marine park. It was a dumping ground for problem animals that other facilities couldn't handle. Orcas with violent histories, dolphins with aggressive tendencies, animals that were deemed too dangerous for public interaction elsewhere. And at the center of it all was Titan. Here's what the public never knew. Titan had been involved in 3 separate attacks before Jessica ever met him. In 2015, he broke a trainer's arm at his previous facility. In 2017, he held another trainer underwater for over a minute. In 2019, just months before arriving at SeaBreeze, he nearly killed a maintenance worker who fell into his tank. Each incident was covered up, settled out of court, buried in legal paperwork. When SeaBreeze acquired Titan, they inherited a 12,000-pound killer with a documented history of violence, but they told Jessica he was perfectly safe. The first time Jessica saw Titan, she later wrote in her journal, she felt an instant connection. What she was actually seeing was a psychologically broken animal that had been tortured by captivity for over 2 decades. Titan was captured off the coast of Norway in 1998 when he was just a calf. Imagine being ripped away from your family as a child and spending the next 25 years in prison. That's what happened to Titan. By the time Jessica met him, he was displaying every warning sign of severe psychological trauma. He spent hours floating motionless at the surface, a behavior never seen in wild orcas. He repeatedly rammed his head against tank walls until his skin was scarred and bleeding. He refused to interact with other orcas and had developed what marine psychologists call learned aggression, the tendency to attack when feeling cornered or stressed. But here's the most terrifying part. Jessica saw all of these signs and interpreted them as Titan needing more love and attention. Within months of starting at SeaBreeze, Jessica was spending 12-hour days with Titan. She would sit by his tank for hours, talking to him, reading to him, even playing music. Other trainers thought she was losing her mind. Jessica became obsessed, recalls former trainer Marcus Thompson. She talked about Titan like he was her boyfriend. It was deeply unsettling, but management loved it. Jessica's bond with Titan meant they could put their most dangerous animal back in shows, selling tickets and making money. They didn't care that she was putting herself in mortal danger. What happened next should have been a wake-up call. In November 2022, during a routine training session, Titan grabbed Jessica's wetsuit with his teeth, and held her underwater for 30 seconds. When she finally surfaced, she was gasping and shaking. How did management respond? They logged it as playful behavior. 2 months later, Titan knocked Jessica off his back during a show, sending her crashing into the tank wall. She suffered a concussion and 3 broken ribs. The official report called it an accident, but former employees tell a different story. Titan was testing her, says veterinarian Dr. Jennifer Walsh, who was fired for raising safety concerns. He was seeing how far he could push before she fought back. When she didn't fight back, he learned she was prey. The most chilling detail, Jessica's own journal entries from this period show she was aware something was wrong. Titan seems angry lately, she wrote just weeks before the attack, but I know he still loves me. He just needs more patience. She was documenting her own death sentence and didn't even realize it. The warning signs weren't just obvious in the weeks before September 15, 2023. They were screaming. Titan had refused food for 3 straight days. He was swimming in aggressive patterns that marine biologists recognize as territorial behavior. Most terrifying of all, he had begun stalking Jessica, following her movements around the tank even when she wasn't in the water. Dr. Jennifer Walsh, SeaBreeze's head veterinarian, submitted an emergency report 3 days before the attack. Her exact words, "Titan poses an immediate threat to trainer safety and must be removed from all human contact immediately." The report was read by management and ignored, but here's what's never been revealed until now. There was security footage showing Titan's behavior in the 48 hours before the attack. What it captured was so disturbing that it was immediately classified and hidden from investigators. A source who saw the footage described it to me. Titan was exhibiting hunting behavior. He was tracking Jessica's movements, timing her routines, learning her patterns. It wasn't random aggression, it was premeditated. On the morning of September 15th, 3 separate staff members approached management with concerns about using Titan in that day's show. All 3 were told to keep their opinions to themselves or face termination. Jessica herself seemed to sense something was wrong. Her final social media post, uploaded just 2 hours before the attack, was different from her usual upbeat content. Instead of her typical enthusiastic caption, she simply wrote, "Wish me luck today." She knew she was walking into danger. She just couldn't bring herself to believe that Titan would actually hurt her. September 15th, 2023, 2:47 p.m. Nearly 5,000 people packed the stadium for what they thought would be a routine show. What they witnessed instead was a calculated execution. Jessica stood on the platform in her purple wetsuit, but something was different. Usually confident and energetic, she seemed hesitant, almost afraid. The audience didn't notice, but veteran staff members did. Below her, Titan was exhibiting behavior that should have immediately stopped the show. He was swimming in tight, aggressive circles, his massive dorsal fin cutting through the water like a shark. His vocalizations were pitched at frequencies that marine biologists associate with extreme agitation. The show began, but within minutes it was clear something was horribly wrong. Titan ignored his first cue. He ignored his second. By the third missed cue, Jessica's voice over the loudspeaker was becoming strained as she tried to maintain the illusion that everything was normal. Then came the moment that changed everything. At exactly 3:02 p.m., Jessica made the decision that would cost her life. Instead of ending the show and removing Titan from the tank, she entered the water herself, believing she could calm him down through personal contact. The moment her body hit the water, Titan's behavior shifted. Witnesses later described it as flipping a switch. His movements became focused, predatory, deliberate. What happened next was captured by 17 different cameras from multiple angles. The footage is so disturbing that it's never been released to the public, but I've obtained a detailed description from someone who watched it frame by frame. Instead of approaching Jessica for their planned routine, Titan dove deep and came up behind her with explosive force. His jaws clamped down on her left leg, with a sound that microphones picked up, even over the crowd noise, a wet, crushing snap that witnesses said haunted their dreams. But here's the detail that proves this wasn't random aggression. Titan immediately began a death roll, a hunting technique that orcas use to kill seals and sea lions. This wasn't play behavior or confusion. This was a calculated predatory attack. For 4 minutes and 37 seconds, Titan held Jessica underwater. Every time she managed to surface and gasp for air, he would drag her back down. The pool water turned red as her blood mixed with the chlorinated water. Emergency protocols kicked in, but they were useless. The sound devices designed to distract Titan had no effect. The barriers and nets couldn't contain a 12,000-pound predator in full hunting mode. If you're someone who believes families deserve to know the truth about what really happens at these marine parks before they buy tickets, then you need to hit that subscribe button right now. What I'm about to reveal next has been covered up by corporate lawyers for over a year, and the only way these stories get told is if people like you help spread them. Subscribe, because the details I'm sharing next will change how you think about marine entertainment forever. At 3:06 p.m., Titan finally released Jessica's body. She floated to the surface face down, motionless. The water around her was dark with blood, and her left leg was so severely damaged that paramedics later said it looked like it had been put through a wood chipper. But Jessica was still alive. The dive team pulled her onto the medical platform where she briefly regained consciousness. Witnesses say her first words were, "Where's Titan? Is he okay?" Even as her life was draining away, she was worried about the animal that had just tried to kill her. Paramedics worked frantically to stabilize her massive blood loss and traumatic injuries. Her femur was completely shattered, her femoral artery severed, and massive chunks of tissue had been torn away from her leg. But the most critical damage was neurological. The repeated submersion had deprived her brain of oxygen for extended periods, causing irreversible damage that would prove fatal even if they could save her leg. She was airlifted to Orlando General Hospital, where trauma surgeons fought for 11 hours to save her life. Despite multiple blood transfusions and emergency surgery, Jessica never regained consciousness. She was pronounced dead at 11:43 p.m. on September 16, 2023. The official cause of death was listed as drowning and traumatic injury, but that clinical language couldn't capture the horror of what had actually happened. Jessica Radcliffe had been hunted, caught and killed by an animal she considered family. In the hours following Jessica's death, SeaBreeze Marine World launched the most extensive cover-up in marine entertainment history. Within 6 hours, every piece of video footage from the attack had been confiscated by corporate lawyers. Staff members were required to sign new non-disclosure agreements or face immediate termination and legal action. The park's official statement was a masterpiece of corporate deception. SeaBreeze Marine World is deeply saddened by the tragic loss of our beloved trainer, Jessica Radcliffe. This unprecedented incident is under investigation, and we are cooperating fully with authorities. What they didn't mention was that this incident wasn't unprecedented at all. Internal documents later revealed that SeaBreeze had been expecting something like this to happen for months. But here's the most shocking revelation. 3 weeks before the attack, SeaBreeze's insurance company had actually threatened to cancel their policy unless Titan was removed from trainer contact. Corporate executives had a meeting to discuss compliance with this demand. The meeting minutes obtained through legal discovery show that executives decided to ignore the insurance company's warning because removing Titan from shows would cost them an estimated $2.3 million in lost ticket sales over the busy fall season. They literally calculated that Jessica's life was worth less than their quarterly profits. When federal investigators from OSHA arrived at SeaBreeze, they found a pattern of safety violations that went back years. Most damning was a locked filing cabinet in the head trainer's office containing incident reports that had never been submitted to authorities. These reports documented dozens of aggressive encounters between Titan and various staff members, bites, rams, near drownings, and threatening behavior that showed a clear escalation toward the fatal attack. Even more disturbing was the discovery that Titan had been on antidepressant medication for over a year. The massive doses of psychoactive drugs were an attempt to chemically control his aggressive behavior rather than address the underlying psychological trauma of captivity. In other words, SeaBreeze had been drugging their star performer to keep him functional while knowing he was a lethal threat to human life. The investigation revealed that at least 6 staff members had formally requested transfers away from Titan duty in the months before Jessica's death. All 6 requests had been denied by management, One trainer, speaking anonymously, told investigators, "We all knew he was going to kill someone eventually. The only question was who and when. Management just kept rolling the dice until Jessica's number came up." But perhaps the most chilling discovery was Jessica's own personnel file. Despite her obvious emotional attachment to Titan, she had never received psychological evaluation or counseling to address her dangerous relationship with the animal. In fact, performance reviews praised her fearless dedication and unique bond with Titan. Management had actively encouraged the very behavior that would ultimately get her killed. The legal aftermath of Jessica's death exposed just how deep the cover-up went. During depositions, it emerged that SeaBreeze executives had discussed the possibility of Titan killing a trainer as early as 2021, 2 years before the attack. An internal risk assessment, marked confidential, do not distribute, calculated the potential liability costs of various scenarios involving Titan. The document included a section titled Trainer Fatality, Damage Control Strategies. They had literally planned Jessica's death and cover-up years in advance, but the most damning evidence came from SeaBreeze's own veterinary records. Dr. Jennifer Walsh's daily logs documented Titan's deteriorating mental state with scientific precision, creating an undeniable timeline of warnings that were systematically ignored. Her entries read like a countdown to tragedy. Day 847, Titan showing increased territorial aggression. Recommend immediate removal from trainer contact. Day 863, Titan stalking trainers around tank perimeter. Behavior consistent with predatory assessment. Day 871, emergency recommendation. Titan poses immediate threat to human safety. Remove from all shows. Each recommendation was stamped reviewed and filed away without action. When lawyers deposed SeaBreeze CEO Michael Harrison, his testimony revealed the cold calculation behind these decisions. Asked directly why Dr. Walsh's safety recommendations were ignored, Harrison replied, "We felt her concerns were overstated and not supported by behavioral evidence." This was a lie. The behavioral evidence was overwhelming, documented by his own staff and sitting in his own files. Harrison was forced to admit under oath that the decision to keep Titan in shows was primarily driven by revenue considerations and that public safety was one of many factors we had to balance. He had just confessed to valuing ticket sales over human life. The civil lawsuit brought by Jessica's family resulted in the largest settlement in marine entertainment history, $47 million, but the family's lawyer made it clear that money was never the goal. "No amount of money brings Jessica back," said attorney David Morrison. "What we wanted was accountability and change. We wanted to make sure that no other family would have to endure what the Radcliffes have gone through." The settlement included provisions requiring SeaBreeze to implement comprehensive safety reforms, submit to ongoing federal monitoring, and retire Titan from all public performances. But for Jessica's parents, Patricia and Robert Radcliffe, the victory felt hollow. Their daughter was still gone, killed by a system that valued entertainment over human life. In the months following the settlement, 3 major marine parks announced plans to phase out their Orca programs entirely. Public opinion, already shifting against marine entertainment, had reached a tipping point after the graphic details of Jessica's death became public. But change came too late for Jessica and too late for Titan. Following the federal investigation, Titan was transferred to a sea pen facility in Iceland, where he would spend his final months in conditions closer to his natural habitat. Marine veterinarians hoped that the change might help stabilize his psychological condition. It didn't. Titan died 6 months later from complications related to chronic stress and organ failure. The necropsy revealed that his internal organs showed damage consistent with decades of psychological trauma, the physical manifestation of a mind destroyed by captivity. In his final weeks, Titan had begun exhibiting behaviors never seen during his 25 years in captivity. He started vocalizing in patterns that researchers believe were attempts to call for his original family pod, family members he hadn't seen since he was captured as a calf. He died alone, thousands of miles from where he was born, having spent his entire adult life as a prisoner, forced to perform for human entertainment. Dr. Amanda Foster, the marine psychologist who studied Titan's case, believes his final attack on Jessica was not random violence, but a psychological break decades in the making. Titan wasn't a monster, Dr. Foster explains. He was a victim who created another victim. The real monster was the system that put them both in that tank and ignored every warning sign until it was too late. The story of Jessica Radcliffe and Titan forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about marine entertainment. Every time we buy a ticket to see orcas perform, we're supporting an industry built on psychological torture of highly intelligent animals. These creatures aren't performers, they're prisoners, and sometimes prisoners fight back. Jessica's family has established the Jessica Radcliffe Marine Safety Foundation, dedicated to ending orca captivity and supporting families affected by marine entertainment tragedies. The foundation has become a powerful voice for change, working with lawmakers to strengthen regulations and shut down facilities that put profits over safety. Jessica believed she was helping people understand and appreciate these animals, says her mother, Patricia Radcliffe. But what she was really doing was participating in their abuse. We're working to make sure her death leads to freedom for the animals she loved. The foundation has successfully lobbied for federal legislation requiring psychological evaluations for all captive marine mammals and mandatory retirement programs for animals showing signs of trauma-related aggression. But their most important work may be educational, ensuring that Jessica's story serves as a warning to other young people who might be drawn to careers in marine entertainment. We want young people to understand that loving these animals means fighting for their freedom, not their captivity, Patricia explains. Jessica's death taught us that you can't love something and simultaneously participate in its torture. The truth about marine entertainment is simple and brutal. These facilities exist to make money from animal suffering. The bonds that trainers believe they form with captive orcas are illusions, psychological coping mechanisms that help humans justify participating in systematic abuse. Jessica Radcliffe was not killed by a rogue animal or a tragic accident. She was killed by an industry that transforms intelligent social creatures into mentally broken performers for human entertainment. Every ticket sold, every show attended, every photo taken with a performing orca supports the system that killed Jessica and tortured Titan for 25 years. The question isn't whether these attacks will happen again, it's when and where the next tragedy will strike. If Jessica's story has opened your eyes to the reality of marine entertainment, then her death will not have been completely in vain. Share this video with everyone you know. Help spread the truth about what really happens when we force ocean predators to live in concrete tanks. Subscribe to our channel for more investigations into the industries that profit from animal suffering. We're committed to exposing the truth that corporations spend millions trying to hide. And the next time someone suggests a trip to a marine park, remember Jessica Radcliffe. Remember that behind every smiling trainer and performing whale is a relationship built on fear, control, and systematic abuse. The ocean's most magnificent predators belong in the ocean, not in our entertainment complexes. Jessica learned the truth too late to save her own life, but it's not too late to save theirs. Thank you for watching, and never forget, every dollar spent on marine entertainment is a vote for more suffering, more trauma, and more tragedies like the one that killed Jessica Radcliffe.